So my question would be, what do you think, in your opinion, what do young people actually care about? Because I always get messages from them. They ask me certain things. They tell me what's on their mind, but I'm wondering what has come through to you. So in your perception, what is concerning young people right now in the EU?
I must say, I really appreciated all what the Fridays for Future are doing, all those youngsters going on the street, fighting for their future, fighting about climate change. They want action. So if you would ask me, I think they are really worried about the climate change, the biodiversity loss. Second, of course, I would say employment. They are worried about, do I have a job? Can I live? I mean, we are in times of multiple crises. We lived we had a pandemic. We are still in it. We have war on the continent of Europe. So we have this energy crisis. So I think they're really worried about in general their future. So that would be my two main points: what job, inflation, and climate change.
I think it very much depends on the region of Europe they've been living. I believe that in the region I live, I'm from Latvia, the young people really feel a little bit afraid of war going on quite close to our borders. So it's one. If we look at the geopolitics, then if we look at Eurobarometer, then every time we see that one of the strong priorities is education for many young people. And what is important for young people, that relationships, having friends, having good time. Then, of course, I agree that climate change is overarching interest of many young people, and I'm happy that young people think about it more than even adults. But I have to add that in our region, I think that social inequality also comes out as one of the priorities that should be put on the agenda of politics more and more.
And what about you, Miss Joveva?
I speak with them a lot, you know, because I answer them like directly on Facebook or Instagram, and I think they really appreciate, you know, like, when they get an answer from a politician. And their questions are like very different, and it really depends on a case-by-case actually issue. But if I focus, because mostly, of course, I speak from young people from Slovenia, because I'm from there. And first thing that they want to know, not worried, but they really want to know what we are doing, not only for them, but like in general, because they find it hard to understand, because they feel like we are so far away, and they feel like we are not doing anything, or at least not enough for them. So that's the main issue that I speak with them, you know, when I'm trying to explain to them what I'm doing or what we are doing. But what they are worried about the most, I think that I have to agree here with my colleague Lily, it's really about the climate change and the jobs, especially, I think, the jobs. Yeah.
Why did you decide to go to cover this kind of content? Marcos?
It's a similar story. I was doing a traineeship in the parliament with an MEP in 2018. And while I was there, I was just continuously telling my friends what I'm doing, annoying them against their will, just sharing my daily life, basically showing what I'm up to, what's happening in the EU. And after a while, at first they were just annoyed because who cares about politics? But then after a while, they understood that, okay, some of these things actually have a big influence on us. And I tried to present it in a as broken down manner as possible. And this was also happening simultaneously to Brexit. And in Brexit, we saw the lowest voting group was the 18 to 25-year-olds. And I thought, okay, we have European elections coming up next year. I don't want the same that happened in Brexit, namely young people who are affected the most by future decisions, not taking part in an election that is important. So I thought in order to give people a reason to vote, they need to be aware of very concrete things that the EU can do for them or can't do for them so that they improve it. And that's why I started the project and tried to, in the run-up to the elections, every single day, give them a certain reason what the EU is doing for them. That's why the project is called EU for You, or what it isn't doing as well. My question is related to young people in Europe, and I'm specifically saying Europe and not just EU because I'm looking beyond the EU borders. So Croatia is a member state that joined in 2013. I have a lot of family there and roots in the country, but I also have a lot of friends in other candidate countries, and many of them have been looking to the EU with great hopes for many, many years, not just young people, of course, but since this is the topic, we're focusing on them. How do you tell young people that are living beyond the EU borders, but in candidate countries or aspiring countries, that the EU is still for them and cares for them? Because a lot of them are growing more and more negative toward it because they feel like they're being failed by it. They only see stalled processes and no real progress. So what do you as MEPs think about this?
Monsieur?
I can maybe start because my parents come from North Macedonia, so I know a lot, and I also have family there. It's very hard to explain them. I mean, it's getting harder and harder, really, because they are so angry and annoyed and depressed, and they really don't actually care anymore, you know. So I'm honest with them. I say, we in the European Parliament most of us, you know, we also have some MEPs that have different opinions, but they are a minority. So, you know, the majority in the Parliament really does everything in our power to help them and to give them what they deserve. But unfortunately, it doesn't depend on us. You know, we have the council here and the veto issues and everything, and it's really frustrating also for us. So I'm just honest with them, and I really understand. I really do, because you know they are my people, they are my family. But I still want to give them, you know, also honesty, but also some optimism, you know, because I try to explain to them that we care, you know, not everyone is like, we don't care, but we here in the Parliament, majority of us, and majority of the European Union as such actually, cares about them. And we are trying to do everything that is in our power to help them in any other way. And now I think things are slowly moving, finally, and it's really important for them to know also that something is going on, and it's probably going to be a long way, but it's happening. So yeah, honesty is the key here, I think.
Dace Melbārde?
As far as I know, Erasmus programs are open also for young people outside Europe. So it's the first thing I would say then, that use already existing experiences. Second issue, I would encourage young people to become more active themselves and to become future politicians of their countries and to change their countries to open opportunities to become members of the European Union.
Sounds very good. And Tilly Metz, maybe to finish?
Yes, in general, I think it's very important to see the state where we are right now, where we have this multiple crisis, I said already, in Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine. So it's also a topic as of course, for the Ukraine too. And I think it's very important to say to the people, you are completely right, and we're fighting with you. We need those countries that are candidates, that are working to be member of the European Parliament since long years already. And we have really to consider them and to take it serious and to advance. But right now, I think with this multiple crisis, it's also, there are now, we have this war that is very important. But in general, we have to say that the EU has also missions and competences outside the EU. Myself, I'm now chairing the relations with Central America. So the treaty foresees also that we have a mission to do outside the EU, to help in building up democracies, to have this exchange again on higher level with those other countries, to be peace builders also outside the EU. So that's in the treaty. It's just not something nice to have. It's really in the treaties. It's one of our missions also to be active outside the EU.
Like I mentioned in the introduction, we're getting closer to the European election in 2024, so getting young people to vote is going to be ever more important. So what would be your advice to them? Marcos.
I would just add to be as concrete as possible and don't underestimate the knowledge young people have also, on the one hand. And on the other hand, when I say concrete, I mean things like give them examples when votes were very, very tight and when really a few votes for MEPs decided the outcome of something so that they have a reason to vote. Because if you tell them, because of 2 members of parliament that were voted in, a whole policy changed in one direction or another, it shows them that it makes sense to go out to elections, it makes sense to go campaigning. So just be concrete and don't underestimate their knowledge.
Yeah.